Hey everybody, Brent back with you. And I thought it was a good time to showcase some of my vintage Star Wars cards, specifically the pivotal, iconic 1977 top set. And recently I was able to complete the first 10 cards of Series 1, the blue series, in SGC slabs. So I have the first 10 cards slabbed in beautiful tuxes, and I thought this was a good time to focus on those first 10 cards. And the way I want to focus in on them is through the lens of the original editor from Topps, who does the commentary in this amazing companion book. This is such a fun book that breaks down every single card in the 1977 set, series 1 through 5. And the gentleman's name is, make sure I get it right, Gary Girani. And he does a forward, and he also does commentary on every single card. He was the original editor and creative guru, for lack of a better term, for the original Topps set. So it's a really fun book that goes through every single card and gives a little snippet. Some of it more eye-opening than others, but I thought this was a good companion piece to use. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and we're going to look at the first 10 cards in the sets through the eyes of the original editor, Gary Girani, and just, have a nice trip back to 1977. All right, let's turn the camera around. All right, so here we have this amazing book that came out in 2015. And just a real quick overview. Here's the introduction and commentary by Gary Girani, like I mentioned. It just mimics the cards themselves, but the style. Here's the original ad that would come with the cards. Just an amazing journey back to 1977. The different wrappers, the artwork, the story behind it, some of the special offers. Here's Series 1 that goes through the stickers, spoiler alerts, but anyways, this is just, and then it just seriously just breaks down every single card. It's an amazing book. It even comes with cards too. Right here. Kind of hard to find book, but I think I got this for about 30 bucks. Anyways, let's talk about the first 10 cards in the set, shall we? So I'm gonna start with, again, if you watched my recent video, I posed the question, is this the most iconic non-sports card in history? I want to thank many of you for your feedback, your ideas, your thoughts. I wasn't looking for people to agree with me. I was just starting the conversation, and that was a great icebreaker, talking about just what determines and what is an iconic non-sports card. And I appreciate many of your input and comments, and appreciate it. So here we are, iconic number 1, Luke Skywalker. Gary Girani says this about this card: farm boy turned rebel in disguise. Something about Luke's resolute expression inspired me to select this image as the very first Star Wars trading card. Frankly, I always thought our decks should begin with a title card, the way every self-respecting book has a cover and a title page. But house style at the time was to start with a bold image. I'd get my way starting with Empire and other 1980s and 90s movie and TV tie-in cards, but for this one, this was the image I chose. And what a great image it is. Imagine if the first card in this set was just a title card. I don't think it would have the impact. This is obviously Luke's rookie card, and it's the first card in the set. It's the card that everybody wanted, not just because it was card number 1, but it was our protagonist, our hero, the one that we all wanted to be. So that was a fantastic start to the set. I'm gonna set that over there. Number 2 in the set, C-3PO and R2-D2. This was originally supposed to be a card just of C-3PO, followed by an R2-D2 card. A last-minute disagreement with Topps art director Ben Solomon prompted this change, with both droids visible, and the caption was adjusted accordingly. So there we have our metallic non-human heroes. Such an iconic pair, and just such a cool thing to see back in 1977 and going forward. I mean, I think C-3PO has been in every movie since, and even popped up in the Ahsoka series. You know, that's up for debate whether that's just, you know, token fan service or whatever. You know, we can get in debates about that. But at the time, this goldenrod and this little plunky beeping droid were the talk of the town. All right. So R2-D2 gets his own card for card number 3. As you'll notice throughout Series 1, the droid names are more often than not spelled out, the word R2-D2 as opposed to the letters and numbers R2-D2. Going this route was actually a suggestion from Topps lawyer David Friedman for some unknown reason. No one seemed to mind, as both approaches were technically correct. So if you ever wondered why they spelled out R2-D2 as opposed to use the actual numbers and letters that he's, you know, more regularly known for, I guess you can blame Topps lawyer David Friedman for that choice. But here he is with his own standalone card, the little droid R2-D2. Yes, card number 4, Space Pirate Han Solo. This is Han Solo's rookie card. The author writes, was Han really a space pirate? I suppose that's semi-accurate, at least from Jabba the Hutt's jaded point of view. No matter how you classify Han, Space Cowboy was another popular designation back in 1977, to use the parlance of our time. He provided Star Wars with its irresistible bad boy with a heart of gold archetype. He was more known as a smuggler throughout the series, but at the time, the caption writers designated him more of a pirate type. So, you know, smuggling and pirating go hand in hand to an extent, I guess. But for card number 4, we're going to call him the Space Pirate. Kind of reminds me of the song Space Cowboy. Steve Miller Band. Can't think who it was for a second. Card number 5, and arguably one of my favorite cards in the whole set, because it's one of my favorite people in all of Star Wars. The rookie card of the stunning Princess Leia Organa. The author writes, her casting was unconventional at the time, but Carrie Fisher turned out to be an excellent choice for Princess Leia. Although it's interesting to consider what runners-up Jodie Foster or Amy Irving might have done with the part, Fisher, then best known as simply the daughter of Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher, truly made the feisty, no-nonsense Leia her own. I could not agree more. What a great card. And another thing I love about this card is just the background of this. I've always been a big fan of that aesthetic. And this card right here, just her pensive staring with the glow from the screen below her, just makes this an amazing, amazing card. Arguably, I think this card is more stunning than the Luke card. And I think this could have easily been card number 1. But regardless, this is one of my favorite cards in all of the set. Card number 6, Ben Kenobi. The author writes, he was more Ben than Obi-Wan in this first movie, since most of his screen time was spent as a somewhat serene, kindly mentor to Luke. Either way, he was Alec Guinness, one of cinema's greatest actors and a classy presence that gave this far-out space adventure some genuine gravitas. He was a big get. I mean, Sir, the fact that he has Sir in front of his name, Sir Alec Guinness, speaks a lot to that. But for this crazy, like they said, this crazy far-out space adventure with some unknown actors like Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford was kind of well-known, where he had been, both he and Luke had been in Lucas's first movie, American Graffiti, but Carrie Fisher was an unknown, more known for her parents. But Alec Guinness came with some swag. So that was a big get. And obviously he played Obi-Wan Kenobi fantastically. Here we have card number 7 and the first appearance of Darth Vader. The author says, we know he's the villain because Star Wars introduces him with dramatic fanfare so audiences can hiss on cue. The deliberately melodramatic music from composer John Williams reminds us of old movie serials, all part of George Lucas's creative homage. We really didn't know much about Darth Vader when he came out and we first saw him. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know why he was. We didn't know why he looked that way. We didn't know if he was in charge. We didn't know that he was to be everything that was revealed in later movies. But I mean, at the time, we didn't even know what the Force was. We didn't know what Jedi was. There was no mention of the Sith in any of the prequels. I mean, the regular original trilogy. It wasn't until the prequels that we even knew what a Sith was. So he was just this dark, robotic, menacing character that just commanded respect and fear. And that's what I think fed into his character. We didn't need to know much about him. We just saw who he was and we knew he was bad, but we loved him for it. Card number 8, Grand Moff Tarkin. Something of a match for Sir Alec Guinness, equally distinguished Peter Cushing delighted his many horror movie fans with this letter-perfect, high-profile turn as Grand Moff Tarkin. Eventually, Cushing's Hammer film colleague Christopher Lee would visit the George Lucas galaxy himself, playing Count Dooku in 2 of the Star Wars prequels. So he was a colleague and worked alongside Christopher Lee, obviously known for Count Dooku in the prequels, like the author just wrote, and I read just a second ago. I'm not doing any justice. But he was another big get, a very accomplished British actor, and in a lot of horror movies that was well known before Star Wars. So for all of the unknowns that would play the main characters, Lucas was able to snag some of these more well-known, established actors to kind of balance out the movie. You know, whether it needed credibility or not, I think that was obviously, you know, in hindsight, such an amazing idea and something that was pivotal. All right, moving on to card number 9, Rebels Defend Their Starship. What a great scene. So the author says, they do indeed. Actually, the name of this besieged rebel blockade runner is the Tantive 4, a CR-90 corvette in the service of the Royal House of Alderaan. Specifics of this kind were not addressed in our original card sets, which tended to keep data simple and generic. For example, the evil Emperor as opposed to Palpatine, who was never mentioned by name in the original trilogy. That's a great, I mentioned Sith earlier, that was never mentioned, either was Palpatine. They were given names of the evil Emperor, and this was just known as the Starship. So there was a lot of facts that came out later, and some of these facts came out via the Kenner toys, and then with just, you know, it's almost like they made this stuff, and then they realized the popularity demanded specifics, because all us nerds needed to know, right? So but at the time, it was very generic. And last but not least, number 10, Princess Leia captured. Boo. The author writes, back in 1977, none of us knew the curious plot twist that would eventually reveal Darth Vader as Princess Leia's natural father. The dramatic scenes leading up to that revelation in Return of the Jedi take on a different meaning in retrospect. And I'll close with that because, and I love the author of this because we've had so much Star Wars content since this movie came out. But when this movie came out, we didn't know anything, obviously. You know, we didn't even know who Princess Leia, where she was from, what was Alderaan, why was that important? What were the rebels rebelling from? You know, again, just so much unknown, but that unknownness, for lack of a better term, and to make up a word, is what just fed into the amazing beauty of this movie and just the awestruckness. I'm making up words as I go. I apologize. That fed into this movie and just, you know, the starry-eyed, wide-eyed kids that we were when we first saw this. We didn't need to know that stuff. We could make up our own terms. All the factual stuff and all the behind-the-scenes stuff and who who did what to where and why and when, that could come later. All we needed to know is what we saw, and what we saw just blew us away. So I hope you enjoyed the first 10 cards of this. I think going forward, what I'm going to do is just grab some random cards from the vintage Star Wars top sets and use the book as a companion and kind of present some facts and some unknown things that go along with the cards. Maybe the author has some interesting, behind the scenes stuff. In addition, I'll have some autograph cards and some other tie-ins to memorabilia from the time that I will like to present to you as well. So anyways, let me find a place for that, if I can try to fit all of them into there. Here we go, your top first 10 cards in the 1977 Topps Star Wars Series 1. Just an amazing, amazing set. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking the time to nerd out with me, and hope to see you along the ride for other Star Wars cards videos. All right, appreciate you all. Have a good one.